Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to League Two Lowdown. My name is Jordan Richards, and first of all, a happy new year to all the listeners, wherever you are listening to on YouTube, or you're watching it on YouTube, or you're listening to the podcast on Apple, on Spotify. Of course, it's my first appearance back following the Christmas break. It was a good time. The batteries are now fully recharged, ready to go again. We'll be jumping straight into it. But I'm not alone, as always. We are firstly joined by Luke Payne.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm in a good mood. I think. I mean, the FA Cup was fun, I guess. Apart from the fact that we brought off about 4 players with precautionary injury, so I'm kind of a bit nervy over whether we end up playing Accrington. But I don't know. I'm just enjoying football, I guess, and our new signings, especially. I love the transfer window.
Yeah, look, you've mentioned football. I've enjoyed it a lot more over these last few weeks. Town are winning matches again. Just about getting through to the fourth round of the FA Cup after taking down National League Southside Western Supermare, who I have to say I actually thought were better than some of the League Two teams we've actually played this year. Gave us a game, really gave us a run for their money. But look, it's all about getting through, and we're in the fourth round draw. That's 2 competitions this season in which we've made the fourth round, and both of them in which Man United are nowhere to be seen after losing to Brighton today. And you probably remember how that went in the Carabao Cup. But I digress. And also, it's been a while, isn't it? I was going to do like this big old intro, but I think he can do that for himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Keiron Jones returns to the podcast. Great to see you again, mate. Long time no see.
He's back. Long time no see. As per Newport this entire season, I have not delivered. As per Jordan Richards' Chinese order, you lot, it does not deliver near to expectation. Happy New Year, everyone. New Year, same faces, and me every now and again, maybe. But I have learnt in the past however many months that I've been gone that you guys have fancy social media handles that come up below, and mine doesn't. I've learned that Newport still aren't any better, and I've been gone for months. And I've also learned that Jordan could not organise a Chinese order to save his life. So,
twice you've mentioned the Chinese.
Also, what is an FA Cup? Twice I've mentioned a Chinese. Ironically, the same round that Newport County went out in the FA Cup, the second round.
How have you managed to link that?
Football. I have managed to link a Chinese order and Newport County's FA Cup run in the same sentence. Didn't you miss me?
Stuff like that deserves to be applauded. Now, as you probably know, I do have a Chinese. I was hopeful to get this podcast done before I went off and ate it, but that I was literally about to press record until it turned up. So, it might be a bit cold and might be a bit horrible. But look, should we talk about football instead? I don't think people want to know my Chinese.
Do we have to?
Well, this is a football show, specifically a League Two show. So I guess we've got to talk about it a little bit, albeit there wasn't really much going on yesterday. I guess on that part, I guess we'll get straight into it. The 2 games yesterday. I mean, look, you did your predictions for the review show. I know Luke did, and Jack Mitchner and Harry Gunn. But let's be honest, if you'd have said postponed for pretty much all of them, I think I'd have probably have gone for the same thing. Couple of, there was a shortened fixture list this week anyway. I mean, a few sides were going to have a break anyway because of the FA Cup, and of course it was heavily impacted last week. However, it's got not much better this week. Only 2 games went ahead. One of them was Bromley, 2-0 win away at Tranmere Rovers, keeps them top of the league. 5 points clear they are now, brace from Michael Cheek in that one, sinks Tranmere Rovers. And the other game, Crewe 1, Harrogate 1, a 94th minute equalizer for Harrogate earns them a decent point on the road, but at the same time, they're still looking for that first win in over 3 months, which is quite alarming. Pretty disappointing on a Crewe end that they've not managed to see that. I did see the goal to that one, and it wasn't the prettiest on their part. I think if they'd have probably looked at that back, quite a poor one to concede. Right, yeah, good finish mind from the Harrogate lad. Have you got anything to add? I mean, look, Harrogate picking up a point in the relegation battle, which also means that Newport now go back bottom of the League Two table. I have to bring that up because Kieran's here.
Thanks.
Anything you want to add on that one real quick, on those two real quick?
Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, didn't I, that in the time that I had disappeared, Newport have not moved a single table position the entire time. I don't
That's
think.
incredible. I mean, it sounds very much believable, if so.
Well, there's not too much to add on to that, really. Other than just the kind of general vibe of Crewe just being an incredibly streaky team. 1 week they're absolutely brilliant, and then the next they're drawing with Harrogate, with all due respect. But still, big point for Harrogate. And well, maybe that'll be a good sort of sign that their problems are maybe improving a little bit, maybe just a little. Be nice.
The
not
disapproval
convinced.
from Kieran's end with the
I
nod.
don't want to say yes. I don't want to say yes for my own sake. But in the 3-word summary of the other game, Bromley are massive. That is my entire summary. God, they're good.
Yeah, they are a bit, aren't they? Don't stop winning, do they? Which is
Tranmere are bad as well. That's my other.
yeah.
Tranmere,
There's also Tranmere who are a very weird side at the minute. But I'm sure we'll touch on Bromley, because what we're going to do, we're going to look, because there's been so few games. We're not just going to talk about 2 League Two games, and yes, there's a bit that happened in the FA Cup. And as mentioned, Grimsby Town currently the only side in the FA Cup 4th round. Of course, there will be at least another League Two side in there with Salford City or Swindon Town. That game is set to be rearranged because that game got called off at the weekend. So us and one of those two will be flying the flag high for League Two in the 4th round of the Cup of
What a
Cups.
terrible representation for League Two football. Grimsby
Well,
and
could have had them paid on nearly. They lost a penalty shootout to a
far
championship
away.
side.
We really weren't far away. Just a bit unlucky in the end. To be fair to Ingram, the Oxford keeper, he played a blinder.
Yeah, and an unbelievable penalty from Jonathan Lecco has got to be said. And the same for
Do we have to talk about that? We have to talk about that.
I just thought you were pretty much what you were in the end. Yeah, I'm proud of the lads. You know, putting a good effort against a championship side. Not Lecco though; he can do one.
Pretty much, yeah.
Are we going to make this the Milton Keynes Power Hour, or
no? We're not.
Why not?
That's the only reason Luke was here originally. That's the only reason I was here. I get to talk about an all right football team for once.
Well, we'll be talking about an all right football team, sure. I mean, look, not Grimsby Town. Well, we're not doing too bad recently. Past few weeks.
Stop acting like you're good, Jordan.
Well, we're not too bad. I mean, we are mid-table. I mean, we're better than where you are.
Football League upside down, my friend. Football League upside down.
Okay, if you say so. Right. We're going to take a look back at our League Two predictions that we did, of course, at the start of the season. I think we looked at it, and I think as a collective, you look at it, and overall, it's not hideous, really. I think there's a lot of teams in which you're there that you probably look at them and you think, actually, that's respectable. But as always, you are going to get a few stinkers so far. What's looking like that's going to be the case. So, yeah, look, we won't dwell on every team. This is no point because a lot of them, like I said, I think are pretty similar to where they are currently. And there's only so much you can say on that. There is one or two justifications, maybe on one or two, which we'll get into. I know you've already seen it, lads, but yeah, we're gonna take a look now. This information is correct from Sunday, the 11th of January. I had to do that because I had to note down where they currently are in the table, which I updated that this morning because of the 2 league games, although there wasn't really much alteration. Let me know if there's a mistake, because there probably is, and I'm just blind for it. Right, okay, let's run through them, shall we? 24th, Accrington Stanley. They're currently 14th, and yeah, you look at these. I think we all expected them to be in with a tough time, but look, it's John Doolan doing what John Doolan does. He's built a steady team. Probably, I don't think they'll get much beyond mid-table. If they do, then seriously fair play to him. But we did have our doubts at the start of the season with Accrington, I think it's fair to say, which reflects in where we put them, really. I mean, all of us, bar Luke, put them 24th. Luke put them 22nd. So I think we did have our doubts. But again, Accrington are just sort of proving people wrong. Of course, they're a tough nut to crack. And I think it's safe to say they won't be relegated, I think.
Yeah, I think we've probably got that one. Well, yeah, at least a little bit wrong. Although I'm claiming the fact that I've got them 22nd rather than 24th as a win. At least bragging rights over the rest of you anyway. Yeah, I think Accrington have been a surprisingly good side this season, and I've got my theory that I always bring up every single time we mention Accrington. They are better against the good teams, and I mean they've pulled off some outrageous results. To be fair to them, they look like a very steady side, and yeah, I mean I definitely don't see them being anywhere near the bottom anymore. To be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of our doubts were on probably Doolan and the resources of that football club, especially with the whole John Coleman situation that had happened prior. But yeah, they're difficult to beat, aren't they? And I think for a League Two football club, that's all you need for stability. So yeah, Luke can have the bragging rights on this one, but let's just wait until we go further up, and then I'm not gonna keep my mouth shut any longer.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it. Look at it, 24th compared to 14th. It's probably one of the worst ones on here. I mean, there's a few more that are quite bad, but yeah, look, I'll be honest, I didn't really see much of this coming, but I think in hindsight, you probably do look at it. He has been quite decent at getting results in the past as John Doolan. It's been enough to keep their heads above water, especially what it was last season. But yeah, there's not really much saying that. Cheltenham Town 23rd now. If we were judging this pre-Steve Cotterill, this looked like the banker in terms of position, although Luke had the bottom, whereas quite a lot, well, the other four, myself, Jake, Keiron and Jack, just had them just above the relegation zone. That still could be the case. It's obviously been a lot different since Steve Cotterill's come in. They're a lot more harder to beat. They've got a little bit, albeit big January for them. I know they've lost key players like Ethan Archer's gone back, Isaac Hutchinson's gone back from his loan. Hakeem Badelican's moved on. A couple of others. There's interest in Jordan Thomas. So I think it's going to be a big month for Cheltenham in January because they've got to replace a load of players. But 18th is where they currently are, and I can see them surviving again. I think they'll find out. I think with Steve Cotterill there, I don't think they'll go down.
Yeah, I me're in a good position to survive. I mean, 1 or 2 months into the season, I was thinking, right, I've got this one absolutely bang on. They're all over the place, but Cotterill has been able to sort of recover their season, and I mean, I wouldn't say they're necessarily entirely out of it yet. Obviously, that they are well clear at the minute. They're a good 12 points clear of relegation, but I do think that, as you say, this whole January window could actually be very, very crucial for them. They've lost 3 of their top scorers. That's a lot of goals you need to somehow replace in the middle of the season. No one's going to give up their top striker for cheap. They're not going to have a very fun time trying to replace those players. But if they are able to, then it could be comfortable for them. If not, then maybe things get a little bit tight towards the end of the season. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But I don't feel awful about this prediction, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Luke's basically summed it up perfectly. They need not a flawless transfer window. You can't have one, but they need a really good one just to make sure they keep their heads above water. And albeit, yes, they're 11, 12 points clear. We've still got so many games to play. They could fall back into that, but realistically, that bottom 3, potentially 4, I don't think it'll change too much from what it is currently. So I think they'll be okay. But I can take bragging rights, so unlike you, Luke.
Yeah, of course, you can take bragging rights for that one again. I also think with this one, just really quickly, I think we did this before their takeover. I think their takeover was done pretty late. So I think financially they might be a little bit better off this month, I guess. But at the same time, it's quite hard to do good deals in January, I guess. But and they've got a lot of work to do. But I back them more than what they did compared to the summer. I mean, you see most of their summer business was quite poor, really, when you look at it, other than Isaac Hutchinson. But yeah, some key names to replace. But I mean, they're far from safe yet. They still could be looked into it, but I don't think they will, personally. Right, Harrogate, 22nd. They're currently 23rd and haven't won a game in the best part of over 3 months. And currently, Jake and Keiron predicted them to finish 23rd, which is where they currently are. Luke finished 20th. I had them in 21st. Jack also had them in 21st. That's Jack Walter, by the way. Yeah, again, it's not a horrendous shout. I think we all expected Harrogate to be in and around there. But I think as weeks go by and the longer they go without winning a game, which is what they have been at the minute, their EFL status looks more in jeopardy by the weeks go by. Really?
Well, yeah, I think it's just the availability issues they had. I remember thinking in the summer, I really actually, kind of liked the look of this squad. I liked their summer business. I thought, you know what, they're not going to be too involved in this whole relegation battle. But I mean, they've lost so many players just over the course of the season to whatever it is, injury, suspension, all the rest of it. And it's done a lot of damage to them. I mean, we were talking about their 3-man bench the other week, weren't we? It was it's not an easy position to be in. Obviously, I realise for them that's probably coming across as a bit of an excuse, but it does play a factor. I don't think they've necessarily had much of a settled side, and it can be tricky to find your rhythm in that kind of scenario. Unfortunately, I just don't see things improving because once you're in that kind of position, I mean, players aren't just going to suddenly show up and immediately start getting new results. I don't think it's going to be a very slow fix. I still think they're capable of getting themselves out of it, but it's going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on them too much because me and Harrogate at the minute are not the best of pals, but I don't know whether necessarily they're going to be in the best of position to bring in those extra reinforcements to increase that squad and make sure we don't have a 3-man bench in the future. But yeah, I think Harrogate have been doing well to stay in League Two, given some of the money that's been spent in this division over the past few years. But I do heavily worry for them this season. I wonder who I was referring to by the money comment, by the way. Salford. Salford.
And the money that's been going around there, of course, it was touched on in the podcast the other day, which is don't banging for views on TikTok. Actually, was it about 32k views? That's done really well. Anyway, Keiron, you mentioned that Harrogate are not your best friend. Shall we see who's number 21st?
Or we should. Who's predicted 21st?
Wow. Currently rock bottom. And again, I think myself and Luke certainly saw this coming. I mean, you had them as high as 17th. So,
do I want to say anything?
Go on.
If you really want to.
Do I? In short, because I'm very conscious that you can't spend about a year dwelling on a team. I have given plenty of stick to Hugh Jenkins on this podcast before. I'm not going to give him as much stick because I think when we had the kind of fan forum, we kind of understood that if it wouldn't have been for him, things could be a lot worse. That being said, 17 points over halfway through the season is shambolic. And the fact we are somehow only 1 point out of it is even worse, to be honest with you. And it really does speak for the quality of potentially these teams at the lower end of the league. But yeah, it's gotten better over recent weeks. We need experience, as I've said about 1 billion times on this podcast previously. Whatever we get, it's a different question. But yeah, it's not great, but it could be worse. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I kind of saw this one coming, to be honest. Well, obviously, that's why I predicted you to go down. It was just the summer signings. It was just the summer signings. I just wasn't a fan, and I mean, I was very vocal about that at the time. And you've hit the nail on the head. Essentially, lack of experience, and we kind of said, "Oh yeah, maybe it'll be someone like Matt Smith, and he'll be really good, and that'll help the side through." I think he's played about 10 games.
2
Well, not even
injuries.
half. Yeah, which doesn't help. But I think you've got you just don't have enough of those sorts of players in regardless. And now ultimately you've gone and lost the one young player that was actually performing, and he's gone elsewhere in the division, unfortunately, in Braybrook.
Is this where I can now leave the podcast and not come back? Do we have to talk about that?
Well, Sammy Braybrook happened. Of course, he's gone to a certain League Two club. I'll let you figure it out. I mean, Keiron knows full well, and some of the comments were quite a read when it was announced. But as he proceeds to take his headphones off, look, I don't think Keiron wants me to touch any more on Newport County. I fully expected this, to be honest, and if they do finish 21st, then it's a successful season at the way they're going at the minute. Let's put it that way, just to avoid the drop. But I think it's been quite lucky that there's quite a few teams that are quite appalling this season. A bit like this team. I saw this coming from a mile off with Shrewsbury in 20th. I think they're an appalling football side, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of unsure on how things would work for them. We're saying, oh yeah, reasonable enough signings. Will it work as a team? I think we've very quickly found out the answer is no. And I mean, there's not too much more you can say about them, to be honest. I don't see things improving that quickly at all. I think it's going to be a long second half of the season for them.
They have loaned us a footballer, so I like Shrewsbury Town.
Yeah, that's bizarre, isn't it? We should probably mention that as well.
Yeah.
Harrison Biggage joining Newport County on loan from Shrewsbury Town. Yeah, that's it. Let's loan players to a relegation rival. I was so baffled by
Bizarre.
that.
It was really.
But I guess
weird,
at the same time, it doesn't overly shock me as to where Shrewsbury are at the minute.
Yeah, it doesn't, does it? It's kind of just a mess at that football club, and it has been for a few years, and it's kind of just capitulated into what it's turned into now. But I don't know. I don't mind Shrewsbury away. So if they go down, at least drag us down with them.
Yeah, sure. I think if I was to say it now, I think the two that go down for me are Harrogate and Shrewsbury. I think Newport will stay up by the skin of the teeth.
And
I'm not just saying that because you're here.
No, that's the two I've been leaning towards, but I am very much aware that we're not safe either, and I'm very aware that these lot could have a magic January and pull clear. They could have that massive change, but I don't know. I just don't see it, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. Right. I mean, let's move on. I mean, look, Crawley 19th, they're currently 21st. Look, I'll tell you what, look, these, other than Accrington, we've not done too bad here. I think they're all sort of in that ballpark. They're just in different positions, aren't they? Yeah, it's, again, what I expected from them, really. I think they've been quite poor at times. And I think you've seen a couple of interviews with Scott Lindsay as well, getting on the players' backs a little bit, which is not always a great sign. Been very busy in the transfer market, mind, but I mean, bringing back Lolosas could be a game changer. That's the sort of signing that you quite like for its level. But at the same time, if you look at it at the minute, 19th, which is where we predicted them, they're currently 21st. I mean, they're pretty much where I expected them to be. I thought they'd struggle. And they have really.
Yeah, I just still don't understand the way that club operates, to be honest. So to me, it is absolutely no surprise they're still down there. I mean, to be fair to them, they've shown signs at times of being a good side. On their day, they can absolutely take the game to someone, but they can't do it consistently. And well, that's the big problem, isn't it? So that's why they're down there. They've obviously got lots of signings in an attempt to fix it. It might improve things a little. I don't see things being any. I'm not going to see any drastic change, in my opinion. I think that I don't think they'll go down necessarily, but I still think it'll be a frustrating season probably for Crawley.
I think maybe I fell for the Scott Lindsay hype. I thought maybe if he did it once, he's done it again. But, he's getting some form of the band back together, isn't he? I think that prediction's pretty on the money, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think no lower than where they are now, but no higher than 15th and that kind of ballpark. I think that's pretty on the money.
Yeah, I totally agree. If they was to do that, I should probably mention as well. I won't go through them all as well, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see our individual predictions. I'll just go through where we predicted them to finish in properly. 18th, we've got Barrow. They're currently 19th, and again looks pretty smart. Unlike if you're Luke Payne.
Well done, Luke.
The highest 12th.
You've let this prediction down massively, big time.
What do you
I'd totally forgotten I'd had him that high, to be honest. Well, I think it was just that there was that sort of optimism over some of their signings. I mean, I remember Reece Healy coming in and thinking, "Oh wow, Barrow are going to be fantastic," and then he goes and gets injured in I think the first game. I don't think he played since. So it's kind of summed things up for them. Their board have been very vocal about how ambitious they are, and obviously Andy Wing lost his job as a result of them not being higher in the table. I definitely think there's the potential for a project there. It's just not necessarily gonna happen this season. So I mean, I think 12th might be maybe at least a little bit of a stretch, but it's still not too far away, to be fair. I think they'll be a steady sort of lower League Two side, and that's just kind of it for Barrow.
Yeah, they've got a project there. They've got ambitious owners. I just think it probably takes a little longer than potentially Luke has thrown them into to kind of get towards that. But that's not to mean that they can't just easily climb towards that 12th position. But they're an ambitious club, aren't they? We'll have to kind of see what comes of them, but I can't see anything too special this season.
No, I don't think they'll finish much higher than where they currently are. Of course, they did finish, let's say, 16th, where they finished the last place, I think, last season even. I think you're probably looking at around there, really. I don't think they'll get much higher than that if they did. I'm really intrigued to see how Paul Gallagher does that, but at the same time, again, we've talked about it before, about the turnover of managers at Barrow. Just can't seem to stick with one for a long period of time, it feels. But I feel like, again, that's a pretty decent prediction. I mean, Crewe 17th, they're currently 10th, which is what we predicted. They're very much in the playoff charge. I mean, Luke had them as low as 19th.
And I just hit my finger against the desk because this is a bad prediction. Ow.
I mean, none of them are particularly clever, really. 17th, Jake 16th, Jack Walton 18th. I think we probably when we do predictions, probably take Crewe a little bit more seriously in terms of at least challenging for a playoff spot. I think because they've done it a few years now.
Yeah, I suppose. I think it was just a case of everything they'd lost. I just didn't necessarily trust their business, and it's just a case of if I'd swapped Crewe and Barrow over in my personal predictions, I'd have been okay here. But obviously I didn't. So. Oh well, that's life. But the thing is with Crewe, you can kind of still see both ends of them. On their day, they are a team that is absolutely one of the best teams in the league. They can really compete and put in some fantastic performances. But then you see the other side of the spectrum, and they've put in some awful performances as well. And as a result, they end up kind of somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think. I don't know whether I'd be right in saying this, but I feel like they've kind of shot up and down the table a lot already this season. So yes, although they're up in 10th currently, they probably could finish quite low, maybe not as low as 19th, but they just need to find any level of consistency. Otherwise, it's just anyone's guess where they finish, to be honest, at this point.
To be honest with you, that's the exact reason I put them 14th. I think I've spoken to a lot of people who support Crewe and kind of seen them on social media and all this stuff. And I think the word that I would associate with them is very similar to what Lucas said, inconsistent. They are the epitome of going to watch your team one week and they play like Prime Barca, and then they're a Sunday League team the next week and you have no clue what's going on. That's basically what Crewe are. Yeah, that being said, 10th with all the injuries, not too far out of it. I don't know. Maybe they can charge for it, but by God, if they could string a run together, they might be all right.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're very much in the mix, so we can't discount them for that. But yeah, I pretty much where you agree. So coming from Tranmere 16th, currently 17th, one we don't really need to dwell on. I expected this. I think very minimal. I think some sort of improvement from last year, but I didn't expect there to be much. I think they'd be quite steady. I'm not surprised to see them where they are at the minute.
Yeah, pretty much. The only thing I'll add is their current stats as things stand: eight wins, 8 draws, 9 losses, 39 goals scored, 39 goals conceded, consistently inconsistent. Add in a few passing mistakes and all the rest of it. Hello, Richie Smallwood. But outside of that, it's kind of where they're at. I had to get that in for Jack Wilson.
Can I get him a Richie Smallwood signed shirt? Is that possible?
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, steady progress. That's kind of it, isn't it? That's all you've already got to say for them. But who knows, if they keep making progress like that, they'll reach the playoffs in 2 seasons' time. So
yeah,
there's your good bit of news.
I mean, it won't be this season. It won't be this season, that's for sure. 15th, Notts County. They're currently 8th. Yeah, this is a bad one, but I think we had good reason to. Obviously, we all looked at the appointment of Martin Patterson, and we all sort of questioned, like, why have they done this? This is a man that's failed at Burton Albion previously, has not had the most glittering managerial career. But I think they've exceeded everyone's expectations. But I think you probably still, if in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing, of course. But I think if you probably look at it, Notts County are always a side that I think normally tend to be quite up there, at least challenging. I think you probably looked at it. We may have looked at it maybe too much about the players and the manager, well, especially the manager, instead of maybe what they've currently got. And they've still got a really good team for this level, and they're putting some really good performances. So I think this one's one in which we could probably say that we've got quite wrong. That I think they'll certainly be. I'll be surprised if they're not in the playoffs. I mean, Keiron had them as low as 18th. So yes, pretty much says everything you need to know about that prediction. Quite a poor one.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the whole manager thing. You can't really get around that. That is why we've gone so low. He was such a huge unknown coming into this, and we were totally unconvinced. If you remember, I still remember recording that, and us just all looking at his record. I think it was Burton, wasn't it? And we're just like, oh, this is just not going to go well for them. And well, actually, it has. Not the smoothest season, but they've been very, very good in spells. January for me is an interesting one for them. Obviously, we've already heard the rumours over Belshaw. If they get someone like him in and fix their problems in goal, absolutely fantastic for them. And you could definitely see them kicking on and at least getting playoffs. I think the only sort of slight concern with me is, their openness over somehow, being totally open to selling strikers like Jatta and Dennis if they're in form and they get a good offer, which, I understand to a degree is the nature of being a lower league club. Ultimately, you've got to be able to keep yourselves running, and just not in financial trouble, essentially. There is a chance, of course, that they could end up collapsing a little bit and ending up a bit closer to where we put them, but I at this stage I don't think they will, unless some crazy shenanigans happen in January.
Yeah, I think it's just looked at it from the manager aspect. Hindsight, the lovely thing that we all enjoy. Obviously, Burton aren't getting on the greatest in League One as we speak. But that being said, given the quality of the players, I mean, the manager can obviously set up a team plays, but I probably entirely rode on the manager outlet rather than the fact that, look at all these incredible players they've still got to their disposal. They'll be there or thereabouts. They've somewhat fixed those defensive issues that we talked about last season, and we mentioned about them since they've come up from the National League. But Yeah, they'll be there or thereabouts. I don't see them dropping off as low as. I could see them maybe dropping off as low as 12th, but especially not as low as 18th. What a terrible, terrible prediction.
Yeah, I know. And there's more to come. I think what we'll do now, we're 35 minutes in. We're only in 15th. I think we'll only really touch on the main ones. We'll just speed through quite some of the others that don't really need to be discussed. I mean, look, Cambridge. Look, we're currently fourth. Saying that Cambridge fourth.
That's
Kieran
like
Jones as low as 19.
That
Kieran
one's
Adams-
worse. That's somehow worse.
I thought there was only
should've said
one
it
I
earlier.
wasn't happy with, but actually, I'm not happy with it. They've been steady. To be fair, Cambridge, tough to beat. Set piece side, second best side on set pieces, or at least I assume they still are. They were a few games ago, at least. No signs of them slowing down. And this is with striker issues as well, with injuries and all the rest of it. They've been solid, and this one is definitely going to be wrong.
Yeah, they suit League Two really well, don't they? You look at the kind of team they've got, some of the physical attribute. They're just a really good League Two team. Like one that's a bit further up this list.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Very good defensive. They're defensively sound. I mean, Newhouse doing a really good job there. I mean, they know how to keep clean sheets, or they know how to give very little away. Obviously, firepower is an issue, and one that they'll certainly look to address this month. I think they just need. It's just a case of them scoring more goals, and if they did that, we could even be talking top three. They're certainly capable at the minute, and where they are, and we're going to get this one wrong. I think we've pretty much admitted that. Like we're going to get this one wrong. Okay, in 13th place we have Bromley. If we're judging of individual predictions, Keiron had them as high as 5th, which is, look, I think I'll leave the floor open to Keiron, but I think one thing I will say is, I don't think many people saw this coming.
I did. Hello.
Other than you, to some extent. Well, probably not this good. They're currently top and the 5 points clear.
Well, this is the thing. If anything, I did underestimate them. I remember this exact prediction because I've watched it about 18 million times ever since. And I had just mentioned that their style of play is the epitome of what I know League Two to be. The physical prowess they possess, they don't give much away. They've got that reliability up front. And when I had seen they'd signed the likes of Mitch Pinnock, who I think is just a really, really good footballer, accompanying Cheek up front, who I had no doubt he was going to put up similar numbers to what he did last season. I knew they'd be there. Now, again, if anything, I've undersold them massively. That being said, we know the run they've got coming up. It's a very difficult run. And it'll be interesting to see how they can compete against those stronger sides, if you put them on paper anyway. So, yeah, I think you look at that, they maybe bring in one or two reinforcements just to make sure they can deal with probably what is an injury-riddled February, because it always is for about every single League Two football club. They'll go up. They'll go up.
You've not gloated anywhere near enough as I thought you would.
I would absolutely love to, but to be honest with you, when we originally did these predictions, I looked at it and I went, there's going to be one club that do it. One club that absolutely nobody is going to go, yeah, they'll be up there. They'll push for it. And Bromley made the most sense. Like, I would love to gloat, but I'm not going to lie, you have gloated enough in group chats for it. So, in actual person, I can just state a few facts to you and then just sound like a genius.
Your crown is in the post.
Let's go. Is it going to be, are we delivering it with every, though? Because in which case, I might not get it until the start of next season.
Well, then, there's a problem in there. Yeah. Look, what can I say? Wow. I think the first half of the season, of course, no, I didn't expect it to be anywhere. I thought they'd be quite steady. I thought they'd probably push towards the top. I say that, put them 14th. Luke had them higher in 11th. But
I at least put them top half.
they've hit the nail on the head, haven't they? I mean, Andy Woodman's just got the book of how to win matches in League Two perfectly. And you mentioned Mitch Pinnock. I
said, this is all I said on the prediction show, Jordan, and you laughed at me. And all I'm saying is you ain't laughing now.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. We're waiting for that.
Yes, I got it.
Can we move on? Yeah, right. Bromley, yeah, you've had your flowers. Right, okay. In 12th, Oldham, they're currently 15th. And I don't think this one's horrendous. I think they'd been, especially in myself, Luke, and Jake's case. I think I always expected them to have a bit of a steady season, nothing spectacular. I always thought they'd survive. And at the minute, I mean, I won't say never. I won't say never with them in terms of maybe pushing up higher, but at the minute, they're what I've expected them to be, really. So there's not really much to add, really.
I mean, the only other thing I'd say is I think their defence has been a lot better than I would have ever expected. The only problem for them is the lack of goals scored. But they are the joint best defensive team in the league as things stand. It's just unfortunate, this whole injury to Michael Mellon, really, because that's kind of their whole big issue in the first place, and now they've just gone and lost their top striker, which is going to make things a little bit more difficult. But I think they've learned the ropes at this point. They're fine. It's just going to be steady, isn't it?
It's steady. I think you look at the kind of range of predictions there. That bracket is exactly where they're going to be. They're not outrageously good. Don't get me wrong, they can string a run together, especially with how good their defensive record is. But that being said, I don't think they've got enough firepower to really push into that top 7. But who knows? It's January at the end of the day.
Of course. Moving on to 11th is Walsall, they're currently 3rd. We all thought that they were going to have a bit of a hangover, I say, from the abysmal second half of the season in which they, bottled it.
I'll take it.
And they still could. They've lost key players already this month. So at the minute, I'll reserve judgment, I think, on them. I'm not. In fact, no. I don't think they'll finish as low as 11th. But in terms of their promotion hopes, I'll reserve judgment.
I'm not ruling anything out just yet. They always seem to have a weaker second half. Well, I mean, obviously the collapse last season was verging on iconic, but it seems to happen almost every season. But then, to be fair, that's usually attributed to losing that sort of key lone striker, which I don't think is actually going to happen this time. Although, admittedly, they have lost a couple of other players. But then again, I mentioned this on the last one. I think they obviously lost Finnegan, replaced him with Patterson straight away. So I think there is a difference in ambition with them this season. It's just whether they can translate that to the consistent results that got them up this high in the table in the first place. There is a chance they collapse, and that's kind of a team I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on over the next few weeks. But I mean, if you're a Walsall fan, you're obviously hoping that's not going to happen again. But we'll have to wait and see with them. I think they're an interesting one.
I think my predictions are right. Maybe not as low as 7th, but playoffs for me again. Just because there's other teams that I look at and I fancy a little bit more. That being said, Patterson is a really good coup. He's a really, really good coup for that team that have had probably one of the most iconic fall-offs in football. Never mind lower tier football, but yeah, reserve judgment on them, but they should be there or thereabouts, given nothing terrible happens, but God knows.
No, but this is Walsall we're talking about. Right, There's 10 more to go. We're going to whiz through these very quickly because we are running out of time. 10th, Swindon Town, they're currently 2nd.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. They're looking good, aren't they? Oh, no, Ian Holloway.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yep. I think their project's just come together a bit quicker than we thought it would. That's all that is, really. There's not much more to really say. They've just looked better. Simple as that. They score goals.
They've got a good team. They score goals. They're solid. They'll probably go up. Job done. Next. Let's stop looking at that prediction. It's terrible.
the way we're going, I think they've got a really good chance of going up as well. I'm and banging in the goals, of course, and I think I put them 10th personally, just out of spite of a certain man, but I'll say no more. In ninth, we've got Barnet. They're currently 11th. Again, not a horrendous prediction. They're very capable of pushing into the top 7. But in Jake and Kieran's case, put them 13th and 12th respectively. They are very capable of going around there. But I don't think it's an awfully bad season for their first back in the EFL. But the potential's certainly there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the joy of this is there isn't any sort of crazy expectation of, right, we've got to be in playoffs straight away. But they are well placed to, at least give it a good go. And, I think they're only 5 points off at the minute. It took them a while. It did take them a while to kind of sort of steady things a little bit, get used to the division. But I think they're starting to find their way a little bit now. And, I mean, they're definitely in with a shout. So, reasonable prediction in my book.
Yeah, it's a decent prediction. I think they'll be definitely in contention for it. There's no argument.
Yeah, I certainly think so as well. In 8th, we've got Fleetwood Town. They're currently 13th. Again, they're not a million miles away. Obviously, they've got to replace Ryan Graydon. They've got a lot of money for that. They've hit the jackpot there with that. I know it was touched on by Luke the other day, but at the same time, they've not scored a league goal, or they've not scored a goal in like 4 or 5 matches of football now. So I think we're starting to get to that point where goal scoring might be one of a little bit of a concern. But yeah, I think again, I think that's realistic enough. I don't think it's a half bad prediction. I mean, Kieran's nailed it at the minute, 13th, and they are currently 13th if we're looking at it in that case. But not really.
We're looking at it off of the recording. We won't have to review it at the end of the season. That's all that matters. Is that right now I am on the money.
You are.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Fleetwood. They're kind of in a bit of a a sort of poor vein of form at the minute. But you look at the table a couple of weeks back maybe, and they were as high as what I want to say 8th or 9th, something like that. So they're not that far off the pace. It feels like a reasonable prediction still. It's just, as you say, there are kind of a couple of attacking issues there they need to address. But hey, they've got a load of money. They can do what they want now. So let's see what they do with it.
Absolutely.
God, how does it feel to be Milton Keynes Dons?
Yeah, speaking of money.
Absolutely fantastic.
Right, we'll touch on Milton Keynes Dons in a minute. But in 7th place in the playoffs, we've got Grimsby Town. They're currently 12th. I still think it's on, but I'm always going to say that we do need to go on. Well, I mean, look, really, we can put 2 wins together and we'll be back in the top 7. I mean, we're obviously looking at other results to go our way as well. We're strengthening this month as well. And if the rumours are to be believed that we're bringing in a very experienced striker that has a very good goal-scoring record in this division this week, if the rumours are true, I'm not going to say any more than that, then that's a sort of signing that could be a game changer. But I'll wait until it's confirmed, until it's all sealed. But again, it's probably one in which I don't think it's a bad prediction at all. I think we're very capable of getting that still. Obviously, a little bit harder than what it was originally, but we're somewhat in that part, really. If we're saying that Fleetwood were around there, then, there's not much separating us and Fleetwood in terms of predictions there, really.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you guys have just had a strange season. I mean, I remember saying a couple of games after you beat Man United, I was just like, well, these guys are clearly up. They look unstoppable. Things haven't exactly looked that way, at least not at this moment in time. And I've not seen many teams that can sort of start the season so well, go and beat a very big side, and then sort of collapse in that fashion. I think,
Walsall.
well, apart from Walsall,
Yeah, that's worse.
but the one luxury you do have is time. And as you say, you've got January. You can make some adjustments and hopefully get yourselves back up there. It's a case of you're capable of it. You've got players that have already done it in previous games this season. It's just about getting back to that level. And there's no reason why you can't make it back up there. Still feels like a reasonable prediction.
Luke can do all the serious football analytics for this one. I will give the sheer comment of from beating Man United to just about scraping past Weston-super-Mare. That probably summarises Grimsby Town pretty well.
Yeah. Look, I said before, I think they were harder than some of the League Two sides we played this year. That's for sure. They gave us
harder than Man United.
You're not wrong. I can't argue with that. You're not wrong. But it's just about getting through at the end of the day in the FA Cup, and we've done just that.
What's an FA Cup?
Look, I should probably mention as well, 4th round of the Carabao and FA Cup for a League Two side. absolutely nothing to be sniffed at, by the way. But of course, I'm going to say that. But again, that's true. It's a really good achievement.
12.
Right, let's move on. Salford is 6th. They're currently 4th, and they're looking really good. Again, I don't think this is the worst prediction in the world, especially when they're signing strikers on that they're paying 500 grand for. You'd probably expect them to be up there, really.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that, to be honest. This is roughly where I expected them to be, there or thereabouts. They're showing ambition, so they are going to go for it, evidently. So they might maybe end up a little higher than I expected. I had them down in 8th, but I say down in 8th. That's not even that far away, to be honest. But yeah, I'd expect them to be there or thereabouts, pretty much as I said.
I just fancied other teams more than Salford before they spent an absolute boatload of money on a striker and actually had a position where they weren't having an injury every other week. But yeah, they'll be there or thereabouts. That prediction from me is, I'm going to say 4th worst, but the worst is yet to come.
Oh, no, I was going to say, right. In 5th, we've got Gillingham, and in 4th, we've got Colchester. Right, now, Gillingham have just been Gills, aren't they, really? The draw specialists. They're currently 16th. We put them 5th. And,
16th?
But there's still potential there, but they just need to turn some draws into some bloody wins, really.
Simple as that, really, isn't it? I mean, all I'm going to say is I saw this coming. I personally had them 10th, so I kind of just had a feeling it was going to be one of those seasons where it looks like they're setting up to, have a really strong season, finish in the playoffs or something, and it's just not going to work out. And that is certainly how it's feeling at the minute. So I'm going to gloat at least a little bit about that one.
You know what? This is maybe the most bizarre thing I've ever said. I'm going to reserve judgment on them. I think they make enough right calls in January, and they can probably turn a lot of those draws into wins. And there's plenty of football to still be played, but yeah, underwhelming up to now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I put them 9th as well. I mean, I wasn't as optimistic as maybe some of us. I mean, Jack Walton had them 3rd, Jake had them 4th. I struggled to see that at the start of the season. But look, timing's on their side. They still could do that. But like Colchester can still make the 4th. They're currently 9th at the minute. And this is a side that I fancy climbing higher, to be quite honest. Again, I don't think this is the worst prediction in the world. They do look decent on their day.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say over the last few weeks, I've kind of started to separate the league in my mind, sort of like the top 8. Then you've got sort of like the middle sort of group, and then you've got sort of like the 6, 7 teams at the bottom. But in my mind, I'm also thinking if there's a team that can push into that top 8 and really make a case for themselves, I'd probably say Colchester. And I mean, they are starting to catch up, to be fair to them as well. Only 4 points off playoffs as things stand. They look like a strong side. I would expect them to make a very strong case for at least playoffs.
Yeah, they were almost almost a mini Gillingham in a way. They just drew a lot of games, didn't they? But they've kind of turned the dial a little bit recently, turning a few of them into wins and whatnot. But yeah, again, I've said this about 14 times this podcast, they'll be there or thereabouts. It's okay. It's an okay prediction. I'll take that one. Okay, now can we skip the next one? Because I have a feeling I know what the next one is.
Yeah, and you know what? I won't be against that as well. In 3rd, we've got Bristol Rovers. They're currently 20th. Okay.
Yeah, this was the only one I was dreading. This was the only one I was dreading looking at it.
Somehow Luke was the worst. Somehow.
Yeah, the thing is, I should have known better with this one. This is the only one I'm a bit disappointed with myself for. I just believe.
You surely want to put them as low as 20th, though, really?
No, I wouldn't have put them that low, but it's one of those. It's just like you maybe. I felt with the other the other relegated sides, we kind of had a sort of precautionary view of it. We weren't gonna chuck them right up towards the top of the table. With Bristol Rovers, we saw, look at these nice new shiny signings that look like they're going to be very, very good. There's no way that can possibly fail, and it's failed. So. Yeah, it's just been a horrid season for them. Not too many signs of things improving that much, even under Evans, although he hasn't had much time yet. I do think they'll still improve at least a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this is by far the worst prediction we've got. I don't think there's any getting around that, unfortunately.
I mean, putting it that way, I think we had worse predictions last season, so at least we can take that. But you look at some of the players they have on paper, right, and you looked at it, and Darryl Clark was back and all that kind of stuff. Even though, yes, we reserved a bit of judgment on the other relegated sides, they looked like they really could just bounce back and nobody would really be surprised by it. But yeah, in the lovely land of hindsight, that's not how football works.
No.
So, bad, very bad. And they still managed to beat Newport. God.
They beat Grimsby, to be fair.
Good point.
They
Yeah,
definitely didn't beat us.
No. Albeit that was the game after Man United, so there maybe was one or two exceptions there. But that's just
no excuses, man. No excuses.
But no, look, Steve Evans is there. I've got full faith in him. I think they'll get enough points. I'll be fine. I just don't see them dropping. I really don't. Right, Chesterfield, we've got them in second. They're currently 7th. Again, the potential's there. They've started the January transfer window quite strongly. I'll give them that. Certainly with a certain midfielder that was at Newport for the first half.
Did you have to remind me again?
Yeah, I did, because I like Sammy quite a lot.
Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I necessarily expected Chesterfield to struggle defensively as much as they have this season. Or obviously, that's been a huge sort of problem for them. But then they've gone and addressed that straight away in January. Whether it works a bit longer term, obviously we'll have to wait and see on that one. But they're pretty much where you'd expect them to be. We kind of said there aren't too many sides that look like they're going to necessarily run away with it. It's just a case of staying with the pack at this point, which is what they're doing. And if they hit form at the right time of the season, there is no reason why they can't rise as high as second or first, as some of you have predicted. They're just pretty much where they need to be, and just need to find the right time to sort of gain a bit of momentum.
All I will say is I'm convinced Sammy Braybrook is the best midfielder in this division. He was just in a poor team. I've said this. If I've said it once, I've said it 14 times, right? But that is all I will add. But speaking about teams that were going to be running away with the league, who do we predict them first, please, Jordan?
It looks like it's MK Dons, and they're currently 5th. I am
let down.
I am bitterly disappointed, and I'll tell you what, if that's not the finishing position in which I see MK Dons, especially after signing Ben Wells and even more impressively Jay Matete for this division, who should be absolutely nowhere near this division, then Paul Warne should not get another management job in the EFL.
Yeah.
I don't.
I do not care about expectation. Right? I don't care about expectation. That team should be on top of the league as it is. I thought this one was the banker, the one you physically cannot get wrong. And somehow, Luke, we're getting it wrong.
And I know what Luke's going to say.
I don't think we're necessarily getting it wrong right now.
Let me guess, Luke, injuries.
I know. It's going to be like a theme from Casualty, from what Luke's about to say. In regards to
where I was going with this. I can bring it up if you want.
Fire away, Luke. Go for it.
But yeah, no, I was kind of just going to make the same point I was making with Chesterfield. At this stage, it's just staying with the pack. I know everyone was kind of expecting us to be like, oh yeah, we'll be like 20 points clear by now and it'll all be over already. But that's not necessarily how football works. These things do take time. Yes, obviously we've had this whole sort of injury thing. I am going to mention it at least a little bit. We've been quite unfortunate in that regard. So yeah, it's just one of those things. We've got what I think Mendes Lang is probably the main one people will recognise. I think he's out until March, unfortunately. Same for Will Collar. I think we're in double figures at the minute for injuries for the second time this season, which is a shame. But at the same time, even with that, we're still in a reasonable position. And I think we're in a good spot to continue building on that. And if we can get a settled side, which I hopefully think we're starting to get closer to again now, then absolutely, I think we're still certainly in with a shout. I'm not feeling negative in any way, shape, or form. To be honest, we've got a good run of about 8 games coming up against teams that aren't in the current sort of like top 8 or 9 teams. So we'll see how we go with those, and hopefully by then we'll be towards the top where we feel like we should be.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, I think, like I said, I don't think these have been the worst predictions in the world as of the minute. We'll of course look back at the end of the season to fully assess. Well, there's one or two that are poor, like Bristol Rovers and Bromley.
Take the top 7 out, right? Take the top 7 out and just only look at the mid-table. Also take Bromley out and Cambridge and Notts County. Okay, never mind. It actually is pretty bad looking at it this way.
Yeah, but yeah.
It's pretty bad.
What Bromley and Bristol Rovers is honestly not too bad. That's
Yeah,
the only thing.
I've seen worse. Put it that way.
Yeah, there's been worse.
Yeah, I don't think we've done a terribly bad job at the minute, but of course a lot of stuff like that can change. And I guess that's where we'll leave it. A little bit longer of an episode because there's been absolutely next to no football to talk about. Really, in terms of stuff, we'll be back in the week. For your midweek, we'll try to predict some games, whether they go ahead or not. It's a different question. We'll bring you some transfer news as well, and we'll bring you all the stories that are good. Because, January's happening, and transfers and signings are being made left, right, and centre from clubs, and silly money's being spent by a few. So we'll touch on the latest update on that in the week. But I guess that's all for me to say is if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. On Spotify, make sure on Apple, make sure you go and download the podcast wherever you get it from. We'll see you on the next episode. You've been listening to Luke Payne. It's been Keiron Jones as well. I've been Jordan Richards. This has been the League Two Lowdown. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.